Hi, this is On the Imagination. Welcome to the Ethical Asshole, and I am your host, the Salty Bitch. Going back to the philosophical coffee, this might be where I am, and it's just where I need to put the ethical asshole because it's the best of both of my worlds in one. I am drawing up documentation to submit for apartments, all that jazz. It's the first time I've been in the system in 2 years. Like, really, it's the first time I'm like putting my toes back into the system. I set up this one finance arrangement with a company. And when I started to do that, they sent me a list of, we're going to need all of this. We're going to need all of this. And I've been away from it for so long that now that I'm stepping back into it, I went, ha! I know what you're up to. And it's fantastic because I know exactly, I figured out the logic. So this is what they're doing. They don't know how to vet people. They have no idea how to vet people. And because they don't know how to vet people, they do something where they basically assess a person's ethics or their character by evidence and obstacle jumping. So they create problems to assess your ability to problem solve. So it's like, and I don't think they do this part accurately. I think that's subconsciously. I don't even think it's subconsciously. I don't think they're aware. It's not that it's subconscious. I just don't think they're aware of it. So you have they want evidence. They want evidence because they don't know how to vet somebody. So they just give me the evidence. So they're looking for evidence. The problem is their evidence accruing is actually problems that they create for people to jump through. So they're hoop jumping. Hoop jumping is obstacles. And basically it's an obstacle course. Every time you do anything with the government, anytime you do anything with the system, you're going through an obstacle course. And this is called hoop jumping. Now, this is sequence. This is 100% problem solving in sequence. So they want the evidence. They have an obstacle course, and you got to do hoop jumping, which requires problem solving skills. Now, you were never taught problem solving skills in school, which makes the obstacle course and the hoop jumping really, really difficult because you don't have the knowledge. So you are ignorant on how to do real life problem solving with obstacle courses and hoop jumping. In addition to that, if you have a mental illness, it's going to hinder your ability to go through this process. The more mentally ill you are, the more you're going to struggle at going through their obstacle course and hoop jumping. So that's it right there. In addition to that, if you lack logic, that would be your ignorance, because you lack logic skills, because that is exactly what is compromised when you're mentally ill. You can't problem solve. So it's a trifecta of you don't know what you're doing, so you have no knowledge, you're naive, and you're mentally ill, which means you don't have the ability to manage your mind to go through their process, and you don't have the logical sequence to do it. So as a result, when they ask for their evidence, they don't know that they have a highly complex, it's not even complex, it's complicated, which is different. So they have a highly complicated obstacle course that you have to go through. And every time you do anything, you have to go through their obstacle course. Now, there's sequence building, and then which is also an obstacle course. The problem is this is a sequence that is built up specifically for an obstacle course. And the obstacle course is so ridiculously complicated and difficult to obtain that it makes it impossible for the majority of people to even participate in the game. And it immediately starts weeding out people, which is why you have a shrinking middle class system. The people who have the ability to get through the obstacle course and do the hoop jumping can make it through. You know what we really need is we need an agency, and all they do is the obstacle course for you. We need an agency that does the obstacle course for you. I might do this with a healing garden. Like, we will do the obstacle course and the hoop jumping for you, and we will teach you how to do it. It's a nightmare. I actually might have somebody who does this already. I'd have to see where she stands on it, because she does this. She does the obstacle course maneuvering shit for people. It's horrible. So I went into this one company where I'm getting ready to set up everything. And they're like, we want 3 bank statements. We want your driver's license. We want your EIN certification. and we want a blank check. And I went, who has a blank check anymore? Who even has check? Do we still do that? And I was able to, and it was funny because the last time I did all this, I was very mentally ill, so I couldn't pull this off. And I felt the initial association, anxiety by association came up. And when I felt the anxiety by association, I went, well, wait a minute, this isn't actually anxiety. This is just memory of anxiety from the last time you did this. You've got sequence now, so just do it. Oh, okay, I can do this. So I get through and I'm like, okay, so they're just giving me problems to solve. Well, that I can do because that's just sequencing. So I immediately solved like boom, boom, boom. And I was like, oh, I've got the EIN certification. It's right here. And then I was like, I looked over and it was, well, we also need 3 bank statements. I'm like, oh, I got that over there. And I was immediately able to pull everything within about 5 minutes. I sent it and I'm like, I'm looking for a check. So I found my checks and I'm like, I don't have checks for this particular bank. And I'm like, who does this? So I asked, hey, can we do a screenshot of my bank app with my bank account number, routing number? Would that work? And I'm waiting to hear back from him. So that's one thing. And then when I was talking to the rent people for my apartment that I'm looking at, I'm going through that with them. And we're talking about that, going over everything. And this got interesting. She's like, well, we need your monthly income. I'm like, income? I don't do 9 to 5s. I'm an investor and I am a business owner. So I don't do income. We do profits and revenue. That's what we do. And this got interesting because I'm all profits revenue. I'm like, I don't do, she goes, well, what's your personal income? I don't do a 9 to 5. And this is immediately, and this is where it really clashes, is they are so close-minded in the box of, oh, everyone's got it. Well, no, I don't do that. I do profits, revenue, income. It's a completely different ballgame. Like I don't have, I can give you bank statements, but I can't. It was really, really interesting. And when we deal with money in that sense, it comes in by the millions, billions. It doesn't, it's really a surreal world I live in. It's really surreal because we're moving money like millions, billions. And it's really a juggling act. You're learning how to juggle. And that's just it, is you're learning how to juggle. Whereas and how well you juggle is what brings in profit revenue. Yeah, it's juggling. It's so much easier. The 9 to 5 is a whole nother creature. And when you switch, the entire system is designed for the 9 to 5, not for the juggling act of the profits revenue. So I'm sitting here working on that over there, and I'm like, it will. This is hilarious. It would probably be easier for me to purchase my own real estate. Good God, I'm not joking. At this point, it would be easier for me to buy my own real estate and move into the actual building, take up one of the apartments, which I just might do, and then have everybody, and then just have a manager there on my property and just manage the property while I live in the penthouse. Like that would be easier for me at this point than providing an income on a monthly basis to show them. Like it's so surreal. It's a really different world. And and the world is not tolerant or allowance. They don't have the allowance for people who are investment. It's not at all friendly. And one of the big obstacles is getting 9 to 5 blocked thinkers to realize, yeah, I don't fit in that group. So this is one of the obstacles when you switch class systems and when you switch from A over to B, it's a completely different mindset. And it's getting them to understand that their rules do not apply to my situation. Like it's like I'm that's not how it works for me. And it's really, really funny because it's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different. So I was on the phone with her for quite a while going through everything, and it was really, really different. It's like it's a very, very different world. It's just a very different world. So what I loved about it was as soon as I stepped back into it, immediately I was able to go, oh, now I can actually identify what they're doing with the sequence, why there's been so much difficulty up to this point. and how to get around it. And you require sequence and logical comprehension in order to navigate their obstacle course, which because they require evidence. Basically, they require evidence, and there's an interview process. And this is where things get really difficult, because it's like, this is where it gets really sticky. Is there's an interview process. Okay, but I am not at all that 9 to 5 classic that's like, let's start over. I'm over here doing this kind of work, and when I get money, I get it in the millions, billions area, and it's a completely different mindset. And this is where it's a creature. One of the things that we see a lot of is you want to always be broke. Pretty much. This is why billionaires in this sense don't have money, is because you want to be broke. If you have money and you're sitting on it in the bank, that's stupid. You don't do that. You put it to work by investing it. So you'll be a billionaire, and you'll also be broke because you've got it invested in assets. So you have to liquidate in order to get money, as opposed to, I've got money, but okay, this is how it works. When you have a job, you've invested your time into a job, and now you're waiting for them to pay you on their schedule, even though you've already done the time. Whereas with investment, you have the money and you invest the money, not the time. Oh, good God, you never invest your time. You invest your money, and time gets invested somewhere else. Time gets invested into increasing the value of your asset, which is your mind. And then you take the money and then you invest it into another asset. And then when it comes time to, oh, I need money, let me go liquidate this. That's when you liquidate. And when you liquidate, you have the ability, okay, well, here you go. I'm going to go liquidate this now. Then you turn it over. So it's really interesting. It's a very, very different way of how everything works. And so if you need money, if you're in real estate, you can flip it. Well, yeah, if you're in the right real estate, you can flip it. If you're also, it's easier to trade stocks. So if you have investments in stocks, it's easier to trade that. But you're always going to have money tied up. I mean, if you're a good investor, you're going to be broke. You're going to have X amount of dollars that's minimum in the bank. You're not going to have something on hand because it should be invested. If you've got something that's available and accessible, you done fucked up and you're not investing properly because it's sitting in a bank. So basically the difference between a 9 to 5 person is they have a bank. But when you're in the investing world, you play the role of the bank. You do what the bank does. And that's really investing. You're doing what the bank does. And it's really, really interesting. So the bank is literally borrowing from another person to loan to another person. And when you're investing, you play the role of the bank, where you're borrowing. Well, you don't borrow, but yeah, you don't borrow. You use your assets. The assets come in, and then you invest elsewhere. And you go in real estate, you go find another investor, and then you transfer their investment into your asset, and then you give them a dividend. There you go. There it is. That's it. So this moves entirely different. And then the payout, you don't see the payout in the banks. This is what's weird, is sometimes the bank wire goes right from point A to point B and bypasses you completely. Sometimes it does go through you. It depends if you have escrow or not. This is where it gets really interesting. And it's like, yeah, the books look different over here. And it's really, this is why you have your accountant, because the numbers are different as opposed to that. So right now, our system is not investor friendly compatible, not at all, which is why you need an accountant to run it, because it's that complex. If it actually were millionaire, billionaire investment compatible, then we wouldn't have the need for a banker, or I'm sorry, we wouldn't have the need for a bookkeeper. It's really complex numbers anyway. I mean, it's not complex. No, it's complex. It's complex. It's not complicated. It's complex. So it's very, very different. So I was on the phone with her, and I'm walking it through her, and I'm like, you're not going to get an income from me. There's no paychecks. I do investment, so I can talk to you in profits and revenue. And it's been the hardest thing to adapt from the low middle class over to this part is this concept. Now, when you're in this group, everyone here understands the language, but now it's that cross between I've got to deal with muggles. Okay. And it's trying to figure out how to transfer the language and then get them what they want And it's like, can I just give you a year's worth of rent right up front? Because that'll just simplify everything and you don't have to worry and we're good. And then you get to, me like it's there's a lot of bypassing. There's a lot of things like that. And it's maneuvering the way around all this. So that's really what this is. It's interesting. But being able to see their sequence of they need evidence and they go through the interview process and they produce an obstacle course that you have to problem solve to do the hoop jumping. But if you're mentally ill, you're naive about the obstacle course and the hoop jumping. You have a mental illness with a poor management of your mental health that you have to get over. And you also have a compromised logical comprehension. And that compromised logical comprehension disables you from completing the obstacle course and the hoop jumping. So yeah, this is definitely something like this. This could be a service. This is it right here is the service. Oh yeah, that's definitely, there could be a whole service just on obstacle course maneuvering and hoop jumping. And it's so funny. I was looking at it and I had all the documents already scanned, all ready to go digitally. So I just had to hunt them down. And I'm like, why am I hunting these down every single time? I can just create a folder in my Evernote that says important and then just drop them all into one space. Like easy peasy, it's done. And it never occurred to me that, and this is just it, is there's digital organization. And this is really a huge deal, is you want to be digitally organized. And I'm at a point now when somebody says, we want this documentation. I create a folder. I have it in that one folder. That way, anything that they keep asking for is already there. Like it's already here. And it's when they ask for the actual paperwork. I'm like, who does that? Who wants paper? Who wants paper anymore? So that big picture, understanding which sequence you're dealing with is really a big part of what you're walking into. So yeah, thank you so much. May the kindest of words always find you.